No security budget was ever approved because the tool was interesting. Budgets get approved when leaders understand the business problem, the cost of not acting, the risk reduction expected, and the outcome the investment enables. And here's what most security leaders miss. Every budget request is also a credibility test. The answer executives give you is partly about the ask and partly about whether they trust the person asking. Welcome to episode 5 of Boardroom Ready, chapter 5 of the book. Last episode, you learned to translate risk. Today, we turn translation into funding. In this episode, why budget is a trust conversation, the 9 elements of a business case executives remember, cost of action versus cost of inaction without fake math, and the 3-option pattern that turns pressure into decision ownership. Let's get into it. When you ask for money, executives are quietly scoring 3 things. Does this leader understand the business? Do they respect financial constraints? And can they separate urgent needs from nice-to-have requests? That's why a boardroom-ready CISO never simply asks for more. You explain what risk remains under the current budget, what changes with the requested investment, and what trade-offs leadership is accepting if funding is delayed. That framing does something subtle and powerful. It moves the decision and the accountability to where it belongs. So what goes into the story? A strong business case has 9 elements: the problem, the business impact, the current gap, the available options, the recommended path, the cost, the implementation plan, the success metrics, and the consequences of delay. That sounds like a lot. It fits on one page. The best security business cases pass 2 tests at once: simple enough for executives to remember and specific enough for finance to evaluate. Miss the first and nothing happens after the meeting. Miss the second and the CFO's team kills it quietly in review. Let's talk about the inaction side, because that's where security cases are usually weakest. Avoid pretending every risk can be perfectly quantified. Executives can smell invented precision. Instead, use reasonable ranges: scenario-based impact, benchmark comparisons, operational evidence, and risk-based judgment. And reframe the question. It's not always, what will this save us? Often the stronger question is, what loss, disruption, delay, or exposure does this help us prevent? That's an honest question you can answer credibly with the audit finding you already have, the near miss from last quarter, the deal that stalled in security review. Now, the pattern that changes the dynamic. Give executives options. A single request feels like pressure, approve or reject, with the CISO's credibility riding on it. Options create decision ownership. Present 3 levels: the minimum, what it takes to hold the line; the recommended, what meaningfully reduces the risk; and the mature state, what best in class looks like when the business is ready. 2 traps while you build it. Don't construct the entire case around worst-case scenarios. Include likely scenarios, current pain, and operational gaps, because those are believable every time. And don't stack too many priorities into one request. A crowded business case is easy to defer, because deferring it doesn't feel like rejecting anything specific. Here's the real-world version. A security leader requests a new identity governance tool. The weak case says, the company needs better access reviews. True and completely deferrable, because better has no cost and no deadline. The strong case tells the operational truth. Our current manual reviews are inconsistent, and that creates audit exposure. Privileges accumulate as people change roles. Nobody reliably takes access away. Onboarding and offboarding are slow, and skilled staff burn hours on spreadsheet reviews that could be spent on higher value risk reduction. Notice what that version does. Audit exposure speaks to compliance and the board. Privilege accumulation is the exact condition behind insider risk and lateral movement. Slow onboarding is a business speed problem every executive has personally felt, and wasted analyst time is money the CFO is already spending. 4 kinds of current pain. No hypothetical breach required. That's a case that survives the CFO's second read. 3 tools power this episode. The Security Business Case Template, Appendix F, structures the problem, impact, recommendation, cost, expected outcome, and decision needed. The budget prioritization matrix, Appendix G, is a scoring model that ranks competing investments by risk reduction, business dependency, urgency, cost, and operational readiness. The version in the community has the scoring formulas already built into the spreadsheet. And the cost of inaction scenario worksheet, Appendix H, guides you through describing credible consequences of underfunding or delaying a priority. It's a tab in the same workbook. Together, they answer the three questions every budget cycle asks: what should we fund? Why this one first? And what happens if we don't? Your checkpoint for this chapter: can you explain why a security investment matters without naming the tool for the first 2 minutes? If the product name is doing the persuading, the case isn't ready. Action steps. Draft a one-page business case for one security investment. Create the 3 funding options: minimum, recommended, mature state, and define how success would be measured after approval, because the leader who shows the metric before the money is the leader who gets funded again next year. Here's the bottom line. Budget requests must connect investment to business value. Present options, trade-offs, and consequences, not ultimatums. Cost of inaction is often as important as cost of action, and a clear business case builds credibility even when the funding doesn't come through. Because budget influence compounds, trust, timing, and clarity this cycle become approvals next cycle. Commander's intent: build security business cases that compete effectively for limited budget by clearly showing risk, value, timing, options, and expected outcomes. The business case template and the prioritization matrix, with the cost of inaction worksheet built in, are free in CyberWarriors HQ on School. Join the free tier and grab them before your next budget cycle. The book has the full chapter. And subscribe. Next episode is about the metrics that make or break your credibility. Links below. Next episode: metrics that matter to executives and boards. Why a dashboard full of noise is worse than no dashboard. The 8 categories of a boardroom scorecard, and the so what test every metric has to pass. That's episode 6. See you there.